Hey, it's Marilla Manelli and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to create a bold money piece along with some TEASY lights, and I'm even going to finish it off into a gorgeous green to yellow color melt using all Kenra color. But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like and turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. Now let's go ahead and get started. To get started on my sectioning, I'm taking a triangular section, going a few inches back from the center, and then bringing it right on down to the front corner of the ears on the hairline. I'm also using the arch of the eyebrow as my guide to create additional sections, creating 4 equal sections. The rest of the hair is pinned back, and I'm going to get to that when I get ready to do her TEASY lights. For this project, I'm using 2 different formulas to get started, and I have Beyond Bond Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 30 volume developer. And the reason why I chose to go in with this lightener is because she does have previously lightened hair with lots and lots of baby lights, so I do want to have some added protection for those previously lightened pieces. For my low light formula, I'm going in with Demi-Permanent 4 Ash at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer. And this is just gonna give me that added depth, so that way those new TEASY lights that I put in are gonna definitely stand out. To get started on that bold money piece that we wanna create, I'm gonna start out on these bottom sections. So right at the hairline, just taking back-to-back baby lights. So you saw that I brushed the hair back and then pulled that weave towards me. So this just creates a nice clean section. If you need added support for holding your foil, I love spreading my fingers on each side of the foil for added support, and then really getting nice and close in with this lightener. I always trifold because this just gives me a nice snug fit. And again, you're gonna see that it's all back to back. And so basically that means that there's no hair in between any of these foils. So a lot of people are kind of confused sometimes with the reason why I would just weave instead of do slices. And the main reason for that is because it creates a little bit of a less of a harsh line, if you will, when doing the highlights versus doing a foil. It's not gonna create a straight line. So it just gives me a jagged edge. Even though I am going to be doing a color melt, I just love the way the grow out looks versus just doing slices. Once I get done with the side sections, I'm then going to move on towards the top section for that super bold money piece. So keep in mind that this is a triangular section, super wide. So it does go back about 4 inches towards the front and then bringing it all the way down to that corner front hairline. So if you want it extra wide, you can definitely take it a little bit deeper. So to get started, again, I'm gonna weave or hold the hair back and then weave those pieces towards me, isolating these hairs to give me a nice clean section. Now, if you don't get all of the baby hairs, don't worry about it. I personally don't worry about taking every single piece of hair because it just makes it look a little bit more natural. But you could always go ahead and apply this right to the root if you wanted to create super high contrast. I personally, again, like that jaggedy edge, which is why I create the back-to-back baby lights. So it just gives me a nice soft line of demarcation for the final look. So I'm gonna go in with a total of 4 foils on this side, and you can see I'm kind of going slightly diagonal. So this is split right down the middle and then going diagonally so I get the most coverage going on. Since she does have those previously lightened pieces, I'm trying to be as careful as possible, but she's had multiple baby light services prior, so it's nearly impossible to isolate. So this is why I chose Beyond Bond, because of the dual bond technology, and I know her hair is going to be protected. Beyond Bond is my go-to lightener anytime I'm doing color correction or I have to do any overlap of previously lightened hair, working on baby fine hair, and I know I need that extra protection, and it's going to help me avoid any further breakage. So once I get these foils in, I'm gonna make sure I get both sides going on, and then I'm gonna move towards that center. So just kind of keep in mind, once I get each of the sides complete, so keep in mind I have 3 on each side by the ear and then 4 on each side of this front hairline, I'm then gonna move towards the center, marrying those 2 sections together that were split right down the middle. I'm gonna finish this one off with a few more back-to-back baby lights. So this is just a way for me to marry these 2 sections together because I do want this to be pretty bold. I'm gonna create 4 of those foils back-to-back baby lights, and then I'm gonna start to transition. And what that means is I'm gonna start creating subsections in between these foils after I get those back-to-backs that have no subsection through them. So this is again gonna give me that nice smooth transition, and then on the very last section of hair, I'm even gonna further transition by creating a teasy light, and that's gonna marry the front bold money piece to that back section, which we're gonna add those teasy lights in. So there's definitely a purpose with each of these foils that I'm putting in, but this is all customizable to you and what your client's needs are. If you wanna create super high contrast, bold, super bold money piece, definitely go in and don't leave any hair in between. It's really kind of up to you. So here on this foil, you can see I already started that transition. There's some hair left between. I just took a slice and then weaved right on top of that. So it's probably about 1/4 of an inch wide at most. So I make these super fine. I'm just gonna put in about 2 of these, and then I'm gonna finish that last section off, like I said, with a teasy light. Just remember that back-to-back is gonna give you the most contrast. Baby lights with hair as your subsection is going to give you a more blended and softer effect, and then your teasy light is going to give you a rooted effect, kind of giving you the illusion of a foliage. And again, you can see here that I'm doing that teasy light and really making sure to push that hair out of my way, and then turning my brush sideways and stroking the product up. This is what's gonna give me that blend of that balayage effect that everyone loves, but in a foil. So hence the term foliage and teasy light. It's honestly a really great technique. Now for the back section, I'm just gonna go down a few inches past the apex and then go all the way down behind the ear. And then I'm just gonna take a 1/2 inch section and then weave out a bottom section and then tease that top portion. So I wanna make sure that I'm creating enough depth going on, and that way these teasy lights will pop. If you put these too close together, sometimes they get a little lost and they just blend in a little too much. And this is why when I get a little bit more closer to the top, I'm actually gonna be adding in a low light formula, so that way I can make sure we maintain enough the depth going on, because she does have lots and lots of previously lightened pieces of baby lights. A really great tip when doing teasy lights, especially on the sides of the head, is I personally love using my board. It does get some time to get used to using a new tool, but I really love using it because it gives me a flat working space and provides me with a lot of tension. So now that I got to kind of that curvature of the head, I'm gonna start adding in my low light formula. So you can see I took about an inch wide section, still did that drop down below, but then created a weave on the top and the bottom, and this is where I'm adding in that low light. And then right on top of that low light, there's no subsection in between, I'm putting in that teasy light. So this is gonna give me the background that I want and is needed, so that way I can make sure that we see these brand new pieces that I'm putting into her hair. I'm doing a total of 6 low lights, and 3 on each side. And here's one more example of that. I took about an inch wide section. I'm adding in that low light all the way from roots to ends, making sure I get a nice saturation. And then taking that top section, teasing it down, and then putting it right on top of that low light foil. So once I get all of these foils in, I'm actually just gonna keep an eye on the foils. But generally for my lightener, I do like to leave it in for about 30, sometimes 40 minutes with Beyond Bond, especially on working with really dark hair like this. So I'm just gonna, like I said, keep an eye on it, process it room temperature, and then I'm going to take her to the shampoo bowl. And this is where I get lots of questions about TEASY lights and how to take care of them. So you're gonna wanna use either a mask, or if you wanna use a light conditioner, Pearl Detangler is a great option. And this is gonna help detangle the hair, and it's not going to over condition the hair, which is a huge concern for a lot of people when doing toning, which is personally why I love the Pearl Detangler for this process. So you're just gonna spray it onto each section, and then using a detangling brush specifically for wet hair, you're gonna start from the bottom and then work your way towards the middle and then work your way towards the top, gently taking these teased pieces out. It generally takes me about an extra 5 to 7 minutes at the shampoo bowl, but the end result is definitely worth it for adding these TEASY lights within my placement. So once I'm all done detangling her hair, I rinse her out and then 100% dry her hair, and now I'm gonna get ready to do her final color. So I'm going in with Kenra Color Creatives. So for the first formula, I'm just doing equal parts of blue and yellow, and then I'm gonna mix that up together, and this is where you can customize it and add in however much true black you wanna create. So the true black is basically gonna smoke out my formula, so I just add in a few ribbons of that, and I just wanted to show you what that looks like right onto the foil. This is typically what I do to kind of test out and see what I like. For the secondary formula, I'm gonna do 2 parts yellow to 1 part blue, so just always remember that blue takes over. And again, to give me a little bit of customization, I'm gonna go in with my clear formula, so just a few ribbons of that as well. And you can add a little more or a little less depending on what you wanna create. And then for my last formula, I'm just gonna go in with straight yellow, and this is gonna be for those tips that you'll see a little later. So I'm really loving these colors, and now I'm gonna get ready to apply. So I'm taking that darker green formula and basically just creating 3 equal sections along that front hairline. So instead of doing the 4, I'm just doing 3 here and applying it right to her roots on the hairline. This is like a really important part because sometimes we leave out those little baby hairs, so I just like to make sure I really saturate it. For this first section, I'm just gonna take that dark green formula all the way down. I just personally like the added depth right in the front. Plus, this is a pretty fine section that I'm taking here, so I'm not too concerned, and it's mostly filled with baby hairs. I'm gonna flat wrap each of these sections also with foil. So this is just to isolate it. So whatever type of product you like to use, foil is great for me. I personally know that it's gonna stick in place. And then now for the second section, I'm gonna start color melting these 3 colors that I created. So I'm starting out with that first 1.5 inches with the dark green, and then for that midsection, I'm putting in my lighter green, and then for those tips, I'm adding in my yellow. So you can create pretty contrasty lines here, or you can blend them in. As you saw, I took a dry brush and started blending them together. And then once you're done with that section, just make sure to thoroughly saturate when you're doing this type of technique, especially if you're gonna be putting them in foils. So almost the more product, the better, and then make sure to brush and stroke your product in different directions when you're applying. So basically the more pressure and the more you push this product in, the better. And what I love about direct dyes is that you really get to see instantly where the placement's gonna be. So I just have a ton of fun actually painting all of this in. And another quick tip is if you are gonna do foil in between, make sure your sections are thin enough to see through. This is super, super important. And make sure to thoroughly saturate right at the root. Again, to make sure you grab all of those baby hairs. You don't want to leave any of them out. Another added tip is when you're doing the yellow, make sure to put the yellow on the area where there's absolutely no green, so that way you get the best pop of yellow possible. So I personally added on the tips, and then I do stroke it into that middle green, but it's definitely a fun little pop of brightness right towards the ends, especially since she has a little bit more of, a modern fringe going on for 2021. So once I get that top section on, I'm then gonna move on to the sides and basically do the same exact placement, but I'm gonna skip the yellow because she's pretty sparse on the sides. Plus, the sectioning does go all the way down to the corners of the ears. So I just kind of wanted to create a nice blended bold money piece, and her bangs is really what's giving me that bold money piece effect anyhow. So there's really no need for the yellow, but again, you can customize this. You can even go in with a completely different color palette for the sides. The options are endless when doing creatives. So once I get these side color melt sections in, I'm just putting 3 of these sandwiches right onto the sides. And then I'm gonna take that dark green formula that I'm putting on her base throughout the rest of her hair where we added in those TEASY lights. And I'm just gonna apply that from roots to ends. And a quick tip here is when you get ready to apply your product, especially if it's gonna be open air and you're not taking as thin of sections as you are when you're doing the foils, just make sure to thoroughly saturate the product. So even using a comb and then working it through with your hands really, really well is key when doing these creative shades. So in addition to making sure that the hair is 100% dry, working the product in and really making sure that you're getting it into that cuticle is key, because this is a direct dye. So this is not oxidative whatsoever. That means that you sometimes have to manipulate it into the hair. So that's usually my biggest takeaway when doing creative shades, is just make sure you really work it into the hair and take advantage of the full processing time of 20 minutes room temperature.
And here's the final result of my bold money piece, along with some TEASY lights and this gorgeous green to yellow color melt using all Kenra color. And just to give you a little recap, I went in with Beyond Bond Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 30 volume developer. And for that low light formula, I used 4A and Demi Permanent at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer, shampooed and 100% dried her hair after about 30 minutes, and then went in with a combination of Kenra Creatives, True Black, Clear, Blue, and Yellow. So I really hoped you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, give this video a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to also check out my other hair tutorials on this channel, and I hope to see you next time.